Hello everyone, welcome to part 104 of Resilient Health. My name is Zaheen Nanji and I'd love to show you how to make resilience your first reflex. So today is part 1 of Resilient Health and we're going to talk about labels and behaviors. And if you want to know more about part 2, 3, and 4, well, you join us every Tuesday at 7 o'clock Mountain Standard Time or 9 Eastern. Part 2 is going to be about motivation. Part 3 is going to be about your why. Remember, health, we all have issues around health, and sometimes we keep on doing something over and over again and we don't know why we're doing it, or we subconsciously know it but we're not aware of it. So we're going to talk about that. You're also going to get some tips about how to change some of your behaviors and your mindsets around your health. And part 4 will be about mastering the self, so mastering yourself around having resilient health. Now, the reason I picked resilient health is because, as you can tell, I have a brand called the Resilience Reflex, where I teach you how to make resilience your first reflex. And this area around health is quite big, and in fact, I wrote a book on Attract Your Ideal Weight, which is right here. Attract Your Ideal Weight, 8 Secrets of People Who Lose Weight and Keep It Off. And I did a lot of research, and it's all around behavior weight management. And we're going to share this with you as well. So one thing I do want to emphasize is that resilient health is not about what you just eat. It's about overall mind and body. Remember, the whole is the sum of all the parts, and the parts are your mind, your body, your spirit, your soul. Anything around that is connected to your health. And you've heard so many people quote, things like let food be, or let thy food be thy, I don't know who made that. If any one of you know that, quote, please say it in the panel. Let thy food be thy medicine. That's right. Then there's another quote where they say that your immune system is listening to your thoughts, and the presupposition there is that whatever you think up here affects your immune system. So, before we go any further, today we're only going to talk about labels and behaviors and how they affect your health. I have brought in really amazing experts. The panel members that we have here are amazing, and they have their own niche, and there's a reason I brought them in, because they have gone through these things as well, or they have clients that they help that overcome any kind of struggles around health. So we have Bonita, we have Jackie, and we have Loretta. So what I'll do is I'll get Bonita to go first and introduce herself, and she can let us know why she's here and what she's going to help us with.
Thank you, Zaheen. Just want to say thank you for including me on this most honorable panel. And I do have a story that is very dear to your audience and your listeners, is the fact that I struggled with weight for years and years. And it wasn't until about 9 years ago, finally one morning, I turned a 180 and changed my life completely, and it was an overnight switch. The switch just went on. And I have a website. It's called www.dreambig-liveamazing.com, because I really want to dream big and live amazing as much as possible. So that was always my mantra, so to say. And I sat down a year and a half ago and finally wrote down the story and published the memoir of my story. And it's called Saving Her, Saving Me. And I just talk about resiliency was a huge part of my weight loss and so forth. So that's why I'm here on this esteemed panel.
Thank you so much, Bonita. And it's so good to have you. And I know about your story, and I love hearing it over and over again. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Jackie, tell us about yourself.
Thank you, Zaheen, and good evening to your audience. My name is Jackie McClain. I'm from Vancouver in Canada, and I'm a clinical hypnotherapist and an addictions recovery specialist. And this subject, Zaheen, is very dear, close to my heart. I'm from India, and my father was an alcoholic. My brother died very young at age 38. He followed in my father's footsteps, and he died an alcoholic too. So I've gone through that, right? I've gone through that through my growing years, and here I am helping people, make the change, and it only happens with resilience, right? It's about making the decision, and you help with resilience. So thank you for having me on your show.
Thank you, Jackie.
Yeah,
and her website, is, you can see, is thepowerwithin.ca. Okay, and our next panel member is Loretta. So Loretta, tell us about resilience and health.
Hi everyone, my name is Loretta Friedrich. Firstly, I'd like to thank Zaheen as well as all of the other guests. I'm just so excited to be able to be working with such a great team. I am a holistic nutritionist, a natural nutritional clinical practitioner, and that just means I like to call myself a nutritional detective. And I really like to dig in and help people take a look at their symptoms. So it's a symptomatology-based approach to health, and determine which body systems need to be supported through analysis, etc. But I also like to use the term food story in food culture, because everybody has a story, and that encompasses all kinds of mini stories, and you can just take yourself back to not just your immediate past, but even before that. So wherever we've come from, that definitely can have a part and a say in how we label ourselves, what behaviors we choose, because there's conditions, or we're classically conditioned sometimes based on triggers. So this whole series, Zaheen, and everyone watching, it just really fascinates me, because I'm actually professionally doing some more coursework towards cognitive support and brain health when it comes to just getting into the, hear me when I say this, folks, the neuropsychoendocrinology of regulating eating. So I'm just really excited to be here, and my website is sproutnaturalnutrition.com, and I am in the process of compiling an ebook, and the teaser is "You Are More Than What You Eat," and I'll just leave it at that. So that should be coming out in the next couple months. So thank you.
Awesome. Oh, wow. I'm just so excited to be with all of you today, because I'm sure that you'll all agree with me where I say that, you know what, health is not just about what we eat. And I know I have said this before, but someone once said to me, it's like a triangle where one part is what you eat, another part is exercise, but the third part is the mind and the way we think. And you need all three to be able to be resilient in your health, but to also to be able to make sure that that's always actually a part of you. Do you all agree with that?
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So do you also agree that when we label ourselves, we subconsciously behave in that way, yeah?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So you've all heard about limiting beliefs. Well, I have something called limiting labels, LL, okay? And in my book, which I'm just going to read an extract from that, when I did my interview with all the individuals who had lost weight and kept it off, and I know I keep on bringing weight on, but that's what I did my research on, I found a difference between the people who struggle with weight and those who don't anymore. And the difference was the labels and what they say to themselves. So I'm just going to read you something here. Um, your identity is who you are. If you're overweight and say, I am fat, you are saying who you are. You're identifying yourself as a fat individual. Identifying yourself as such is similar to saying, I'm a woman or I'm a mother. You label yourself and identify yourself all the time. This is why weight loss is such a struggle. If you are your fat, it's going to be very difficult to strip that off you. If you keep on saying, I'm fat, and you identify yourself as that, it's very difficult to strip that off you. And or in other areas of health, they'll say, I am celiac, I am diabetic. Well, you are not your disease. You have a dis-ease. And this is where the difference comes in. So now the question that you may have out there, well, yeah, Zaheen, that's all great. That's what I say to myself. Yeah, I'm overweight, I'm fat, I'm diabetic, I'm this. But how do I change that? How do I discard the labels? So in my opinion, the way it worked for me was I had to find out if I'm calling myself I am overweight or I'm diabetic, which I'm not, by the way, what actions cause me to label myself that way? So if I'm overweight, what actions cause me to label myself that way? And I would say things like, well, I'm eating the wrong foods. So those are my default behaviors. Okay? So usually we have our default behaviors and then we end up labeling them and labeling us in the process. So the way you discard them is by finding the action that causes the label and then finding a game changer to change the action. So let me give you an example. If I say I'm overweight, the behavior that makes me overweight is, well, I kind of tend to eat too much. I don't know when to stop, or I'm hungry all the time, or whatever. My game changer is I use the phrase, I am in the process of choosing wisely, or I am in the process of making a plan so I can eat my breakfast, my lunch, so I'm not starving at night and eating and just eating like, crazy. So something like that. The game changer for me was I am in the process. So that could be something that you could use as well. But let me ask the panel experts. Do you or your clients have labels? And how have you helped yourself or them change them? So let's start with Loretta this time. We'll work backwards. How about you, Loretta?
Well, first of all, when we're identifying ourselves or we are saying we are fill in the blank, again, we need to, I feel, this is how I've approached it, is that you move backwards and determine when you actually started having that label. Besides that, I'm going to answer it this way. I like to actually, with my clients, determine whether or not, if we're talking about if we're talking about weight or we're hungry or food intake, is it a hunger or is it a craving? And so what is the difference between those two? I know we've been talking about labels as in more like I am fat, I am diabetic, but I always park that on the side. I have them park that, and then we go further and start talking about when it comes to the physical, the needs for the body. It's basically you are eating because it's a metabolic need, or it's an emotional situation. So we unpack that. So as a holistic nutritionist, though most of the time when people do come to me, they're wanting to have meal plans, etc. It's very much taking a look at, instead of I am and then fill in the blank, it's taking a look at, in the department of food, is it the hunger or is it the craving? And so then that's when we start getting a lot more results, because then we start looking at, well, what trigger is it for the craving, etc. So that right there is just such a huge discussion when we start talking about hunger versus craving, and then we just park that other label, and then we go back to it and kind of see where that might fall. So
interesting, Loretta. Thank you so much. How about you, Jackie? How have you helped to change labels?
Well, this is what I hear in the work that I do, helping people overcome addictions, and it's really sad. All I hear is, I'm an alcoholic, I'm a druggie, and of course we've heard the I am fat. I recently, helped a young woman who was over 300 pounds. She hated looking at herself in the mirror, and she came to me as, I've been fat all my life. There goes a label. But can you imagine people saying, he's an alcoholic, why help him? They are druggies.
Yeah,
what a
that's
terrible,
sad.
It's sad, right? So when I help my clients, Zaheen, I help them with, again, my point of view is a large majority of us live on autopilot, right? So I help my people, my clients say, be present, become aware. I teach them simple techniques just to be present. Now, aware, when we have awareness, we have choice. After work, when I've had a crappy day at work and it's 5:30, I can have a choice to go to the liquor store and buy a bottle, or I can go home and go for a jog. But we can't make those choices unless we feel present.
That's right. That's so interesting, Jackie.
Yeah.
So with you're saying that you have to be present to be aware of the label that you're saying to yourself, and then the game changer is you make a choice. What do you want to do?
Yeah, right. Make a decision, right?
Right.
This has got to stop now. I've done it for 30 years. It's got to stop now. And from the decision comes action. We feel empowered.
Yeah.
Right? We feel empowered. So
that's awesome. Okay, thank you, Jackie. Bonita, I know that with your memoir, you've gone through a lot, and you also have a daughter. So tell us something that you used as a label or that came across, and how you changed it.
Yeah, listening to all of your stories, there's little parts of each of your story that is my story. It's quite interesting. So my daughter was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. She actually almost died before she was finally diagnosed. She was 18 months old. And it was unheard of at that time for such a young child to have diabetes. That's why she went on for days without her being diagnosed and was really on the edge of her life. And that frightened me as a mother, and I just went into this survival mode. So for me, I was so focused on taking care of her needs, her insulin injections, weighing and measuring food, life with a toddler, getting them to eat a certain amount, like that it was just so draining for me. And I was so busy that my mind wasn't even thinking about me. It was all just, Samantha needs to eat. So I was not present, and I was not aware of anything that I was doing for so many years. So when Jackie was mentioning the fact that, they're just not present, I wasn't present for a very long time, for 15 years, until finally one morning I woke up, and the switch just went on. And I looked at myself in the mirror, and I didn't recognize who I was. I was very sad and lonely and very overweight. And I got scared. And literally, I looked at myself and I said, you have to save yourself. So the title of my memoir is called Saving Her, which is my daughter Samantha, Saving Me, because that morning, 9 years ago now, I turned the switch on. I started to think about what my thoughts were saying to myself, because I was saying, oh my God, you're so fast. Why you're so fat? Can't you stop eating? You just can't stop eating, can you? And all this negative talk about myself. And in the meantime, oddly enough, I was telling Samantha, you are a beautiful little girl. You just happen to have diabetes. And that's what I kept telling her, because I didn't want her to have that label. Yet I couldn't do it for myself. There was a disconnect there. And so that was just for me. And every morning I would think about myself and say, you are strong and confident, and I would tell myself in the mirror that I was that, and I was not even close to that. But every day, and I was talking about momentum last night, every day I pushed that rock just a little bit further, so I gained a little bit more momentum every single day. And some days I felt like giving up and lying in bed with the covers over my head and cry, and like, what for? It's useless. But I just couldn't let myself do that. There's that voice that I had manifested for myself was just getting stronger and stronger every single day, and I just wouldn't give up on her. I wouldn't give up on me when I say I wouldn't give up on her. So
that is true resilience in health.
Yeah,
because,
absolutely. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I found that when you said that you manifested that voice, that's great, because that was your game changer, where you say, you know what, stop calling myself this, but what can I do instead? And the voice is great because we all have critical voices lurking around. And in my coaching practice, I always talk about the critical voice. And we do different things to it, where we kind of turn it around and let it go, just like a Pac-Man, behind us. Go away, little critical voice, or we just make it squeaky like a mouse so that we can't hear it. Those kinds of things. I know it sounds crazy, but it works.
Yeah, whatever we need to do, we all have our own things.
Right.
Yes.
And you had one which was strong and loud that encouraged you, which is great. So if you're listening to this, if you're watching this, know that these are all tricks and strategies. They're not really tricks, but they're strategies that others have come up with to become more resilient in health. And I wanted to show you all this label that I made. It says, I don't know if you can see that. Hold on, let me come up. Remove the label. Can you all see that?
Yes. Yeah.
I love that. That's great.
Yeah. Remove the label.
That's awesome. Can you take it off? Can you take the label off, please? Okay.
No, I can't. So it says, remove the label. And the label is, in this example, I'm fat. The behavior is I tend to eat for rewards or comfort. So now, how are you going to change? Find a game changer. And I just give the example, I'm in the process of changing. Okay, so the next one is about behaviors. And I really wanted to bring this up because labels guide our behaviors. So now we're going into behaviors. Behaviors is, I believe, and of course I've also been taught this, that every limiting bad behavior, negative behavior, whatever you want to call it, has a secondary gain or a positive intention. So for example, we have people who complain that they're always tired, like the next morning, but then we look at their habits or their behaviors the night before, and again, it's just around health again, right? Sleep is around health, where they'll watch one show, then they'll say, oh, I just want to watch the next one. Oh, I want to watch the next show. Oh, the next show. And by the time the midnights come, midnights come around, and they wake up the next day really tired and sleep deprived, and it goes on and on. What's the gain behind that behavior? What if I were to ask the person, what are you gaining by doing that? And they may say things like, you know what? If I go to sleep too early, then I will get up in the middle of the night, and I don't want to do that. So the later I sleep, then I can be okay. Or I'm too scared to go to sleep on my own. I just need to watch TV and fall asleep on the couch, and then I'll go to bed. So these are all gains. So I want to hear from you. Whether it's to do with weight loss, Bonita, or with Jackie, if it's with addictions, Loretta, if it's with your clients and health, what has been the gain behind a limiting behavior, and how have they changed it? So let's start with Jackie this time.
Well, with my clients, this is really surprising. I've had clients who've smoked for 52 years, 2 packs a day. In fact, one of this gentleman after he, quit smoking, had a conversation with his wife, and they had decided that with the amount of money they would have saved if he had quit earlier would have been $250,000.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
Right? But here's the kicker. Why do we do it? We know how much we're spending. We know our health is going down the drain. But we want that feeling of stress, of relief, of relaxation. And because our subconscious mind stores all of our beliefs, our behaviors, and our habits, it recalls 50 years prior, the first time we took that cigarette and we had that feeling of, and every time now, from now on, every time there's a stressful situation, or at work or at home, the subconscious remembers the time, you smoked and you got that feeling. And that's
right.
why it pulls us to that.
That's
So it
right.
could be smoking, it could be a glass of wine, what have you.
So what you're saying is,
Yes.
for smoking then, which is a limiting behavior,
Yes.
the gain for the gentleman was just that stress relief, was if he took that
Stress relief.
one like puff, that's all he
Yes.
felt.
Yes.
So what did he do instead then? Because you said he quit after 52 years.
Yeah. So what I help my clients to do is replace that behavior, but give them a replacement behavior with the same feeling. So how do we relax? We relax by having a nap. We relax by going for a massage, going for a jog, having a hot bath. Some people love reading. Whatever it takes, these are healthful habits. Healthful habits. Listen to music. Meditate. There's so much we can do. Some people love going for yoga. There's an array of things we can do that gives us the same feeling, yet is healthy and will, move us forward in life.
So then the question is, so this is for the viewers, is how can I find this gain other than going toward what I was going for? So
correct.
Right? How can I find this gain other than going towards my smokes?
Yeah.
And for Bonita, let's go to you now, and then we'll do Loretta.
Sure.
With your example, what was a limiting behavior, and what was the gain, and how did you change that?
Well, for me, in my situation, I was overeating because I was avoiding my own feelings and what was going on with me, because I didn't think I had room to deal with my stress, and I was in a lonely marriage and quite unhappy, but I didn't have room, quote unquote, to deal with it because I was so busy dealing with Samantha and her chronic illness and the family, and I have another daughter. She's younger than Samantha, and she's fine. She doesn't have diabetes, but my world was so busy that I just kept putting myself back, and I would push the emotions down and deal with them by eating and almost medicating them, or almost like a drug, I would suspect, to make them seem like they would just disappear. So what I did that morning when I switched the light on, I just decided that I needed to deal with the emotions, and I needed to deal with them on whatever way I could, and I was just sort of going through all of that morning. So, but what I found was when I went to the gym, I would open up and I could feel those feelings in a controlled fashion. And then when I was done my hour or however long at the gym, I could slowly, it was like the emotions, I could finally deal with them, and they were manageable. And then the next day I would go to the gym, and it just made me present for that 1 hour or however long I gave myself to go to the gym. I was present enough to deal with me and how I was feeling, and allowing myself a lot of feelings to happen, because with a chronic illness, of course, there's anger, and there's despair, and there's loneliness, and there's denial and guilt, and all of those things that I was feeling. So I allowed myself a little bit of space in my world every day to deal with that. And when I wasn't going to the gym, I found moments of pockets in my day where I found I could still deal with it. So I wasn't using the food as much. And when I started to exercise, I didn't feel very good, so I knew my eating had to change, and they almost went hand in hand, actually. I changed the way I ate, and I changed my activities. So I went to the gym and totally revamped my eating. I went to a specialist. I went to one of the nutritionists at the gym, and Loretta is, I mean, that's a key person in getting your weight established and understanding what type of food you need to eat. So that's my story.
Yeah. So then just to recap here, your limiting behavior was that you numbed your feelings with food.
Yeah.
And the gain behind that was you just had so much to deal with, you just didn't want to deal with any more stuff, and food kind of made you feel better at that time because it was more like the way you say it, like a drug that just kind of made you feel better, like an Advil would, you know, make a headache go away. Basically, that's how you felt with food.
Right. Yeah.
But
That's a part of it. Yeah.
But that's when you found, like the way you said, how can I achieve this? How can I deal with my feelings other than going towards food? And that's when you found the gym really helped you deal with that.
Yeah, I was surprised that it was that helpful. I didn't anticipate that it would be so powerful, but even today, I say it's my church because that's where I go and I cry, I pray, I release, I get empowered. It's everything. Without it, I don't think I could even exist. It's hard for me to even take a day off not going to the gym because
it's so important to you. And see, this is what health is about.
Yeah.
But I want to talk to Loretta and see what she has come up with her clients or with herself about a limiting behavior and the gain behind it.
Well, I've seen a pattern in some of my clients. I especially work with women who are better than age 35, let's put it that way. And I can think of one example in particular where there was a situation and the person was bored, just low energy, and as we started uncovering, and remember I'm the nutritional detective, so to speak, we discovered that actually, and she was always tired, didn't want to get out of bed. So of course we were looking at what could be behind that, and she was being looked after by a lot of people, which is really good because I work with a team of professionals, so medical doctors, etc. And it ended up being because of the change of life. We learned that she was in between jobs, that she got a kickback, really, that if she was sick, her family was looking after her. So it was a way to control her family. You know, they were getting older, the kids were already late teens, and so it was a way to keep the family together in a backwards way. Instead of her being caregiver, her kids would be caregivers. So I don't know if that makes sense, but it was so. As we started talking about options, and it was just so exciting, revisiting hobbies and started talking recipes, different recipes, seasonal eating, just starting with one vegetable and revisiting the vegetable and how many ways you can actually cook the vegetable, and going to the farmer's market and getting involved with your kids in other ways so that it wasn't about them caring for you in that way. And it was just a phenomenal how there was just this big shift that you can go through midlife, but you don't need to be feeling like that this is the end of the line. And so anyway, there was a big shift, realizing what was happening is that she was putting herself in a position where she was allowing the others to become caregivers. So it was really a victory for the entire family. It was quite exciting. So yeah.
Wow. That is a great example because, you know, family health is, you know, again, like it affects, like I say, the whole is a sum of its parts. And that's a great example of how, you know, family members make the whole family work towards health. And you did such a great job there where you made her realize, the gain that you are getting from this is that you want the family to stay together, but you're doing it in a limiting way where they're looking after you, and yeah, so that's awesome. Wow, it's already 7:35. Time has flown. And I had fun, and I hope you all did as well. So next time, and the next part 2, which is next Tuesday, if you like what you saw, join us in part 2, which is all about motivation. And again, if you want to learn how to be motivated or how to get motivated, if you're the kind of person who comes home and says, oh, I really don't feel like exercising, or oh, I really don't feel like cooking, let me just go through the drive-through. Find out how resilient people who look after their health do it. And we've got coaches to help you on this panel. We've got people who've gone through this that can help you on the panel. So make sure you join us next week. Until then, God bless.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.